And I think that was a lesson because we don't always, even though we may have plans for ourselves, even though we may have things on our vision boards that we want to do, we always have to stay open for God to do His work too. And if we allow ourselves to be open for God to step in, then God can lead us where He wants us to go.
What's up, family? It's another episode of Couples Connect, and it's your boy Kevin.
Tanya.
Yeah, bro. Hey, we coming up on here just to celebrate, man. We made 1 year, baby, 1 year
Yeah.
of doing Couples Connect podcast, and man, we just want to talk about some things that we've learned by talking to other couples throughout this past year. A full year of talking to married couples who all drop gems, wisdom, knowledge. They had a lot to share, baby. They had a lot to share, right?
Yes, they did. And we've learned so much from the many couples we've had on the podcast. It's just so unbelievable that we've actually made it to a year.
Yeah, man. Woo, woo. 1 year, Couples Connect, baby. So we excited about it, man, and we're looking forward to getting into a whole nother year, another season coming up real soon. So we're gonna be pushing to continue to dig into all these couples' business and let them continue to drop gems and wisdom to help us all, based on this married life thing, man. So look forward to that. So anyway, but what do you feel like you've learned in a year of talking to married couples? What are some things that maybe you might have learned?
Well, one of the things that I've learned is that we all go through the same thing, some of the same things. When you say, for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, until death do us part, we all go through the same thing. We've all gone through our struggles financially. We've all gone through our struggles when it comes to our marriages and our relationship toward one another. When it comes to building communication, I've learned that there are different communication styles that
Mhm.
everyone have. Um, it's funny because you learn that men want one thing and women want another thing, and just learning how to bridge those things together. It's been amazing just learning from the different couples. I've learned that with one of the couples, when it's time to communicate, there's a way to do that. And I can remember, I think it was the Flugents or the Fugens, and they did the thing with the candle. That was so profound to me because if I'm talking, I have the candle, you have to allow me to talk. Vice versa, when you're talking, you have the candle, and I have to allow you to talk. That was so good to me. So I really love that about that couple. But yeah, that's some of the things that I've learned so far.
Yeah, yeah. I think everybody's had different situations, and I love the fact that we were able to get in different you know conversations about different topics and surrounding marriage, right? Finances, sex. We did some communication. We did, like you mentioned, that was a communication tool, right? That B and Lee was talking about, man. So it's just so many different things that people struggle with. I think the biggest thing for me is that I realized that what people go through together most of the time is not the actual thing that they're dealing with. Is something that they're dealing with that was created together. Usually it's something that was a trauma from one of the parties, one of the spouses, that brought their trauma into the situation that caused the friction with the other. And that is the main thing that I've noticed, even in our own, relationship, right? We both have our own individual traumas, baggage, however you want to, name it. But we brought that into the marriage. And that's what happened with a lot of the other couples. And, maybe some of them, identify that that's what it is. Some of them might have, some of them might not have yet identified that to be true. But it's truly one individual who has some trauma, some baggage that they bring in to the other. And that's where the friction kind of begins. And it's like we having marital issues. Yeah, you having marital issues, but it's because of this one individual that's bringing their baggage to the marriage, and the other person just has to kind of deal with that. So, um, but yeah, man, that's one of the main things. That's the big picture, right?
Hmm.
That's looking, 50,000 feet of what the main thing I've noticed with a lot of couples. That's a situation in many cases. But on the other end, just kind of bring it down a little bit. I think some of the um, married couples that we've talked to, they all seem to be working it out, man. Working through it, trying to figure it out, and the fact that they're not giving up, not quitting, um, that was pretty pretty enlightening to me, man. Because I really want people to see people, right, to fight for their marriage. You don't see a lot of people fighting anymore, like we used to. So that was good. Just kind of see that. So
Yeah, and to add to that, what I've noticed with the baggage part is that we all come with baggages, right? Most of the couples that we interview, a lot of them come from homes that were broken, where it was maybe a single parent that was raising their child, or a home that was just not full with love and stuff like that. So couples tend to bring some type of baggage with them, and they try to bring that baggage together and make all of that a home. And like you said, that's when all the conflict comes in. That's when you try to get to know each other and try to figure things out. And some couples can make it through all of that, and some can't. So yeah, and like you said, I know I came with a lot of baggage in our relationship, our marriage. I came in our marriage with so much, that almost caused us, or that caused us a lot of friction. But one of the things too that I was really happy to see with a lot of marriages is that they had God in their marriage. They made God the center of their marriage. And I believe that's really why they stuck in there and lasted 15, 17, 30 something years, because they had God as the center in their marriage. So that was really good to see, because it also encourages you to keep God as the center of your marriage. But we've had so much fun with the couples, and just learning and talking to them. So much, so much fun.
yeah, great point. Having that is the second big thing I think for marriages that a lot of people, um, and I think just about everyone that we did talk to, uh, reference God maybe in some way or some form or fashion, right? So it's good to refreshing and see that people are trying to as much as possible to keep God in their marriage, right? And I think
Yeah,
a lot of the struggles and the issues that many people go through is because maybe they don't have God, right? Just like you and I was recently talking about that alignment, right? The alignment between us and God, and everything is when things are out of alignment. That's when chaos can cohabit and take over and just kind of be all over the place with things. And but the fact that you know people who are couples who are striving to keep God first, um, usually are the ones who continue to stay in it, continue to fight, continue to do what they need to do to be successful in their marriage. So yeah, man, I think man, it was a great great year, man, of learning. I've learned so much, man, through these couples. Financially, right? We had some financial conversations. We talked to Team Montgomery. We had Team Montgomery on here, and then we talked about with Josh and Tanya about finances, stocks, and how to invest. Right? That's another portion. That's a major big piece of a lot of people struggle in marriages, finances, and the way they had the blueprint of what they did to create their wealth, right? And continue to create their wealth. So I think that's another piece that a lot of African Americans, Black people, were just not educated enough in the whole how to build wealth, how to do it, right? And it's crazy because you don't necessarily have to have a ton of money to begin. You can start small and grow and build your empire slowly but surely. So that was another piece I really enjoyed. I love Pastor Arthur and First Lady Patrice when talk about communication how that relates with God and everything. So it's been an amazing, amazing 1 year, and I just, I'm just excited about what God is going to continue to do, as we continue to move forward with Couples Connect podcast. So it's been dope. It's been amazing. So,
Yeah, I really truly enjoyed the podcast too with Tonda and Josh because we took away from that podcast with them. We learned a lot from them. We implemented some of the things that they taught on the podcast. And so that's what's so amazing about talking to other couples is that we actually get to learn, right, from other couples and what they're doing and how they're doing it. And the great thing about that too is that they're not afraid to share
right.
with us and with our audience on how they, are doing things and making things work for their marriage. So that was a really great podcast. Who else? I loved Lisa and Myron Coleman.
Mm,
This is why I love their podcast or interview so much is because they were brutally honest. They were brutally honest about what, some of the challenges that they had in their marriage. And I don't know, they've been married, what? I don't know, somewhere high up there, 17, 18, 19 years or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
And to say that they made it from point A to point B or C where they are now is amazing. It's truly amazing to watch how couples, because when we get married, we think that we all get married for different reasons, right? Some of us get married because we think marriage is going to make us happy. Some of us get married because we think, oh, I got me a man to take care of me, or I got me a woman to take care of me. But when you do get married, you realize that you're not marrying for any of that because something else shows up in that marriage that really shows up to show you who you are because it is a mirror. Your spouse is your mirror. There are going to be things that your spouse is going to say that is going to trigger you, but it's not to trigger you to make you mad, to make you angry. It's to trigger you to, because there is something inside of you that also needs to grow and expand and, just develop, right? And so we're tested in our marriages with each other, and we learned that with a lot of the couples that was on the podcast. So through sickness and health, like I said, we had some couples on there who've been through sickness and and not had to stay, but chose to stay because the unconditional love is what they chose. They chose their spouse. So yeah, it's just been great. I can go on and on about that, but is there a couple or a guy, a husband that you learned from during this year that we've been interviewing couples? Anybody stand out in particularly?
Man, I learned from all of them, man. I really did. I think I took bits and pieces of every single man couple, that we talked to. Anything that probably, the first thing that probably stands out the most right out the gate probably is Tracy and Frederick. And the only reason why I did that because I was dealing with self love, right? Self love from a man's perspective. And I think, and that's not to say that all of the other couples and all the other men who talk, didn't make
Yeah.
an impact in my life in a major way through their sharing. But just because of the self love piece, it's just something that's rarely, talked about amongst men. And just taking that time to, you know, take care of myself, as a man. And so that was a piece, man. That was really, you know, uh, pretty good. I really enjoyed that. You know, but then again, man, like I said, I love them all. Eh? It's not one above the other. I think I really, truly, truly enjoyed them all. But it was for different reasons, though. I enjoyed all of them for different reasons. I love my man, Big Black Therapist, baby. You know what I'm saying? I love
Mhm.
that because I think standing on what he believed in and what he, what he felt like he wanted to put out in the world and go against what maybe most people might, might feel like, man, why you Big Black Therapist? Why you want to call yourself? But he stand on business. He stand on that. He went for it, and that's what he is putting out to the world, and that's how he's building his brand, right? So, man, I'm always for people who believe in themselves, and so that was just that was a major bold statement for him to do that, you know. Um, but yeah, I really, man, again, uh, many of them I enjoyed. Jordan, Jordan when he had when him and his wife Rashonda, I think
Rashida.
Rashida, right? Man, his vulnerability um was amazing to me. Being able to open up as a man and really, the way that he cared for his wife, the way that he loved her, you can tell, you can feel it. Um, but more than anything, just for him to be able to open up his heart and share the way that he did, that was very touching. So, because most men don't get that vulnerable with their feelings and stuff. So yeah, man, that was touching. All of them, baby, all of them. It was amazing. It was amazing. I love Chris fight. When he was going through his sickness portion, right? Him and Rochelle, right? And he was going through everything. And he was fighting for his life, basically. You know, all of these stories have impacted me in some kind of way. Uh, just amazing. It was just simply amazing. So, yeah,
Yeah. What about this was kind of funny in a way, Toya and Reginald.
yeah,
Uh,
awesome.
it was awesome. It was, they talked a bit about their struggle, but it was funny when he was talking about he came home with the
Mhm.
pizza had on the pizza, and Toya was embarrassed. That was hilarious to me. But how she supported him through all of that, because he didn't know that he was going to actually start a limousine company or a car company.
Mhm.
He did, that's what I loved about that story is that that wasn't in the cards for him. That's not something that he had on his vision board.
Right.
Things to do, the things that he had on his vision board to do, it's not the thing that he's doing. But God led him to something else, and I think that was a lesson because we don't always, even though we may have plans for ourselves, even though we may have things on our vision boards that we want to do, we always have to stay open for God to do His work too. And if we allow ourselves to be open for God to step in, then God can lead us where He wants us to go.
Yeah.
And we're able to listen to where he wants us to go. And Reginald did just that, and he stuck with it. He got a second job working at Walmart. Some people would be embarrassed to do that. Like, I'm not going to do no stock. Or he started working delivering pizza in his neighborhood. How embarrassing that can be, you know what I mean, for his children or something like that. So that was really good. And look at them now. They have a fleet of cars. His wife has joined him with the business. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's amazing when couples can partner and do business together. Though there are challenges with that, we know that because we even had our own challenges in the beginning because we had to learn our lane with each other. You do this, I do that. Don't We can't merge, you know. So we had to learn our lanes too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. Those stories, those wins and losses, and which I don't think any of the couples really look at it as losses, right? It's just like
yeah,
you never lose, you only learn. So
yes,
I think it was a lot of couples going through, you know, um, the bottom, going through it in their marriage, in the finances, in different areas, and to overcome and that's what couples connect podcast is really all about. We do this, and I think just to be clear, we do this because we want people to be honest and transparent about things that they're going through, ups and downs, and be very, very open about the nasty part, the part that you are embarrassed about, that you shame, that you would you just don't go out and just be telling anybody. You want to pull back the curtains on marriages and let them see that, man, this is where we were, this is what we've been through, but God, right? Now look at us, right? And then some of the couples were still dealing with stuff, still going through it, but they hadn't given up, right? They still was in the fight, still going through it, still trying to get to the other side. And I think that's what Couples Connect is about. Is we want couples to look at this and be encouraged by the testimonies and stories of other couples who may be going through similar, things that they may be going through, so they can see that, man, if they can do it, we can do it. Period. That's what Couples Connect podcast is about. Look at couples to get your inspiration, your encouragement, fill your cup, get back in the fight, and keep going. And hopefully that's what it's doing, man. My prayer is that this platform is helping marriages out there to say, look, girl, yesterday I wanted a divorce, but today I choose to fight. I choose to fight, and every day you got to wake up because it's a choice every single day.
Yeah.
We talked about it. I think even with Jim and Felicia, I think that was the point, right? It's a choice. It's every day. It's a choice you got to make to want to fight for your marriage. Every day, it's a choice. Wake up again, it's a choice. So hopefully when people look at Couples Connect podcast, they make the choice to fight another day. That's what it's about.
Yeah. And I think we're doing just that. By the grace of God, I think we're doing just that. I feel like we are the podcast for couples who didn't have a model growing up in their home, right? Who they didn't learn how to really have a good marriage from maybe their parents or grandparents or people around them. I know I didn't. My mom and my dad never married. My grandparents were married, but that situation. It wasn't they had an open marriage, right? So that wasn't the best example of a marriage to follow. And I didn't have anybody around me who had an example of a marriage that I would love to follow. So I feel like our podcast, Couples Connect podcast, is that for people who choose to tune in, who choose to watch it. Just because you didn't have it growing up, the resources are out there. And we are a resource for that. We're a resource for marriages and couples, or not just marriages, but people who are engaged, who's looking to be married. This podcast can help them because we're bringing not just our story, but stories from so many people. Because everybody's stories looks different, even though we deal with a lot of the same things. Everybody's stories look different, and that's what I love about our podcast. Is that we're able to touch, on the same thing, but we show how we can handle some of those things differently. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I think no matter what, we already know that, when you say your vows, through sickness and health, rich or poor, that do you poor, all those things, at some point, we're going to experience all those things. And I think with the Couples Connect podcast, we're covering all those things. So even if you're not going through it, this is not your season for sickness and health. Maybe at one point, sickness and health will be a season that you go through. You never know, right? Finances, through rich or poor. Maybe that's not your story now, but at some point, if you keep living long enough, that may be your story. So it's just a matter of time before you go through these things. Those things are in the vows for a reason, because at some point, those things you will go through. It's just a matter of, will you be ready? Will you be rooted and grounded in God's word, in his will, enough to be able to combat those things and know how to deal with it? Hopefully with this platform is creating, wisdom to the point to where even if you're not going through it now, you can draw from what you're learning here. And then whenever that situation you might be faced with it, hopefully you can pull from what you learned from the Couples Connect podcast, and hopefully it can help you get through that season, but that's really what it's about, man. Because at the end of the day, our marriage may not be going through what somebody else's marriage is going through, but we still in the game together. We still in that married life game together. And we gotta be able to support one another, help one another. Because let's be real, like you said, a lot of people maybe come before us, the generation before us, they didn't have nothing to pass down to us in terms of maybe with marriage, because the only example they were was just, man, cheating, lying, and whatever, and I not every that may not be the case for everybody. They might have some positive examples of marriage in some couples, but that just wasn't my not my story. That was not your story. And in many couples, that's not their story. Like to say, I had a positive role model of a couple, right? Marcus and Patricia, when we talked to them, they had a positive role model. They thought, right? But then that couple divorced.
Yeah.
So then, boom. So they were like, "Oh my God, if they divorce, what we gonna do?" Right? So it's like, man, you just never know what's going on in someone's. We always say it was in someone's household, and it's just one of those things where you got to get help. So now you're taking me back to when we spoke to um, uh, counselor, right? Our girl, um,
Who, Lila?
Lila, right? Lila. When we're
Mhm.
talking about counseling, like, and most people don't even you know, a lot of people are getting into counseling now, but counseling is super major for married couples to try to, seek the help, find answers, and get what they need to kind of help them to kind of maybe, decipher what's really going on in their marriage, right? So, again, that was another great podcast just talking about, counseling, man, and how to go and get the help you need as a married couple, because you can't. Married couple, man, you can't do it by yourself. If you ain't got guidance, that's first of all, that's if you ain't got guidance, you already lost, right? You already lost, right? Because that's kind of like going into a little bit of what we're learning now. Marriage is, you know, it's not a contract; it's a covenant.
It's
It's a covenant unto God, and if we're not honoring that covenant, if we're not doing the things that we need to do, uh, that that shows that we are more than just what the world says we are, but we are who God says we are as a covenant. So in that covenant, it's not just a husband and wife; it's a covenant between the husband and wife and God, right? A lot of people deal with the contract piece of it, where it's just me and my wife, and God is not in it. So it has to get back to, man, it's just not a contract; it's a covenant, and let's get this thing, man, back on track. And that's by putting God in the very front of everything that you do. So,
Yeah, and going to the contract and the covenant, the contract is more like, so it's more like a business deal. And a lot of marriages are in business, right? They're not really marriage partners, but they're business partners. And what I mean by that is you have couples who are married and it's all about, the money, the bills,
yeah,
what we're going to do, this, that, and the other. But it's not about the love and the compassion. And, let's bring this, what we're doing, how are we covering our marriage, it's a contract. And that contract is so easily to, um, what's that? It's so easy to be canceled out. You know, it's almost like you're signing what it is, a DN, something disclosure or whatever. It's almost like you're signing one of those. But a contract, I mean, how many times people have, you know, just disowned their contract, never didn't honor their contract, breaking leases and breaking all kinds of things, right? And that's what you do. That's what you could do in a marriage when you have a contract. It's so easy for you to get a divorce
yeah,
when you have a contract. But when you have a covenant, a covering over your marriage, and you have that covering with God, then the hard things that you go through, I'm not going to say that it's easy to come out of, but you have something really solid to hold on to. That third card, which is God. You have something solid to hold on to. And I think that's what a lot of couples that we've interviewed um, have holding on to, that they hold on to. Because when I think back now, it's been a year. Everybody that we've interviewed so far or chatted with, they're still married. They're still married. You know,
sure.
so we're all in this fight together. What makes you think, or what is it that you feel like keep us together and choosing each other every day from your standpoint? Like, what is it? We'll be married 25 years, together 28.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always easy.
Yeah. Well, God for sure. No doubt. I think God is definitely a part of our relationship, is a part of our marriage for sure. Um, and I think we both have a heart for God, man, and I think we both have a relationship with God for sure. I think that's priority number one. You know, and I think that the second thing is that you know, um, like they say, idle mind is the devil's playground, right? So I think we have purpose. I think a lot of people are still searching for what their purpose is, and that can be very frustrating, not knowing what your purpose is and being unfulfilled. And you're
An
doing
individual purpose or a purpose for the marriage?
individual and together because once you can have an individual purpose, but I think even in the individual purpose, like if I have a purpose on called on my life, you still a part of my life, right? So it's still going to have some understanding with you of like, oh, he's in this purpose, he's in that. So there's some understanding because you could have someone that's in their purpose, but their spouse still not really understanding, like that is your purpose, that is your calling, right? So that can even still cause frustration within the marriage. Even though I'm in my individual purpose, it can still cause strife. So it takes two to understand, man, and get on a page to say, even though that's my wife, even though that's my husband, they still have a life outside of it. They still have a life of their own that they need to live. And I want the best for my wife as an individual, right? In her individual space. I want her to find her purpose, her God given purpose. And I want to support that, right? And I feel that you the same for me, right? You would support me if I'm in my purpose. But that can still be a major problem in most couples if you don't identify that your spouse is in their purpose and you're giving, why you not spending time with me? Where you going here? Why you doing this? Why they could be in their purpose, but it's causing frustration. So when it gets to a point where their purpose is causing pain, it's not fun, right? So I think for us, just to get back to your question, I think what keeps us aligned is the fact that we're getting more and more aligned in our purpose of what God calls us to do, and we're supporting one another in those purposes. And I think the fact that what we do together is that we always have goals, right? We're always striving for something, right? If you're not shooting for nothing, you're gonna always hit it, right? So if you got to be striving for something, and I think we have common goals. So the commonality of what we're doing, it keeps us, together. It keeps us talking. It keeps us communicating about what we got going on, what we're doing, right? As opposed to if we don't have any goals together, it's like we ain't got nothing to talk about. It's easy for us to just kind of be stuck in our own world, and with no connection, no communication. But I think us having goals together is super, super big because it keeps us connected in a way that we would not be if we didn't have goals that we set together, right? So I think that's a major part, man. Because you can get real bored real quick if you're not striving for anything and no goals, no purpose, no nothing. You ain't even trying to figure out what your purpose in life is. You ain't got no goals in life. Then what are you really doing, right? What are you really doing? So I think that's what keeps us, man. We're driven, you know, um, and we both want more, So and I think knowing that when um, you're in your purpose, you being in your purpose also there's a benefit for me if you're in your purpose, and vice versa. When I'm in my purpose, there's a benefit for you because if we're in our God-given purpose, that's joy, that's peace, that's fulfillment, right? So what you think gonna come into the house? So it's just I think uh, we're in the wheel, man. We're in the wheel of what God wants us to be doing, and and I can't say we were always there, but you know we were always hunting for it for sure. And I think that's what kind of just kept us, at least of what kind of kept us locked in. So what do you think?
Um, I think all of that, what you just said, and going back to choosing each other, we wake up every morning and we choose each other. I choose you daily. But one of the things that I really love that I feel like is a foundation for our marriage is that we pray every morning together.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this for since the kids were little. And we immerse them into our prayers as well. We don't do it as much that they're getting older now and our schedules with them are different. But because we pray together every single morning, whether it be a quick prayer, it be a longer prayer, we are going to pray together. And I think that sets the day, for when the enemy try and come move in and, try and throw you off throughout the day. I believe that sets the day. It's a foundation that not only we have created for us, but also our children.
Mm-hmm.
So, praying together, I believe, has been one of the biggest things I think that has played a part in, you know, the 25 years that we're going on in marriage.
For sure.
Um,
Eh,
and that's huge.
Yeah. And then again, that's what does that do though? That's intentionally putting God first. Because we do it in the morning before we leave. It's intentionally putting God first in our marriage, in our day, covering our kids, covering each other, covering, you know, family, friends, people we pray for.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of putting God first before we even walk out the door. So
Yeah, and even when we don't feel like praying, because there are mornings where, we just not feeling it, or we not feeling each other, and we don't feel like praying, but we gonna lay that hand on each other. God bless them, bring us back home safely. We still gonna do it. I mean, we do it grudgingly when we have those moments, but for the most part, um, we do that every morning, and I love, 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 love that.
for sure. Yeah, been doing it now for, oh my God, that's, yeah, for a long, long time. Every day. We don't miss. It's
Yeah.
crazy. But anyway, so hey man, 1 year Couples Connect podcast. This is what we've kind of learned. This is what, this is how we get down a little bit, in our lives, our marriage, keeping God first, praying with one another every day, making sure that we always have, goals and we're striving for something. These are some of the things, man. These are, you might look at this, might be some small things, but these are major things for us because it keeps us in sync, keeps us connected, and keeps us locked in. So yeah, man. So I'm excited about the couples that we don't even know that we're going to be interviewing in the future. And I pray for them right now, Lord God, in the name of Jesus, that when they come to be on this podcast, that their story will continue to bless, encourage, and inspire other couples who may be listening in, because that's at the end of the day, again, this is the only reason why we do this, right? You know. So anyway, other than that, man, you got anything else you want to share?
I would say that when you watch Couples Connect podcast and you watch all the different couples, do not compare your spouse or your marriage to the couples that you see on screen, because the spouse that you have is the spouse that you are supposed to have, and that spouse is perfect for you. Do not compare yourselves to another couple, because you have no idea really what they've gone through and what they're going through and had to go through to get to where they are. So learn from it, but don't idolize it, and don't compare your marriage to someone else's.
For sure. Good stuff. I like it. Cool. Well, hey, man. Hope you enjoyed this little short version of Couples Connect, man. We just want to get on here and just really celebrate it 1 year, man, of doing this thing, and also just to kind of let you know why we do it, right? The reason why we do this, and we hope that that you are being blessed by the content, couples testimonies that they're sharing with you guys. So continue to, man, continue to lock in, continue to, participate in the comments, subscribe, like, share, do all that thing, man. We're just doing it for you guys, man. and us, so we can continue to grow because we all in this married life together. So, hey, man, that's all we got, baby. My name is Kevin. That's my boo thing.
Tanya,
And this is Couples Connect. And we
happy
out.
birthday, Connect.
Hey, peace.